Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to England once again, and this is another brewery who I've never tried anything from. So we're going to go to County Durham today, a little town called Newton Aycliffe, and we're doing my first ever beer review from the Steam Machine Brewing Company. So this one is their Treacle Toffee Stout and it comes in at 10% ABV. So I'm really interested to try this one. This is one that was recommended to me by the guys at Hippo Beer in Glasgow, and they've recommended some pretty damn good beers to me before, so I'm sure this one will be pretty interesting. And it's a brewery that seems to be quite up and coming and really highly rated. I mean, I'm going to Durham University next year for my teacher training, and the town itself of Durham looks like it's a bit of a beer wasteland, but there do seem to be a couple of nice breweries in County Durham, and of course Newcastle does have a good thriving beer scene as well. So I'm really interested to try one of these beers that will be from one of my local breweries when I move in September. So hopefully it's a good one, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from the Steam Machine Brewing Company. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you before, and that's constantly being added to, of course. And please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys, and the support that you give the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Steam Machine Brewing Company then. So as I mentioned to you, Steam Machine Brewing Company are based in Newton Aycliffe, and they were founded back in 2015 by Nick and Gulan Smith, who are a husband and wife team, of course. But they started the company up with a small business loan of £15,000 from Virgin Money, and also with some of their own cash as well. But they basically just returned from the Channel Islands where Nick had been working as a science teacher. The brewery itself is apparently based in an old wartime munitions factory, and they also have their brew room there where people can come in and try the different beers that they're brewing. And over the last few years they've been expanding gradually, and they also received mentoring as well from Richard Branson after Nick shared a train journey with him on Virgin's new northeast coast line, which was quite interesting actually. They won some sort of competition. They were one of 3 companies that got a special mentoring deal from Richard Branson, and they seem to be producing some pretty good stuff. They were saying on their website that they distribute their beers to around 75 locations in the northeast of England and in Yorkshire as well actually, and we're starting to get their beers up here in Scotland too. Like I said, I bought this beer at Hippo Beers in Glasgow, and I think they just had an event actually where the brewers had been up to do something in the shop, and that was why they had these beers. So hopefully it goes well for them up here in Scotland, and like I said, there's some really good English craft beers coming out these days. I'm not such a big fan of the traditional ales in England. I've never been such a great fan of the English special bitters and stuff like that, but some of the little craft breweries that are producing the more American style beers down in England are doing an absolutely awesome job, and I hope Steam Machine are one that are going to fit into that bracket. So yeah, that's all you need to know about the brewery just now. If you want to learn more about them, of course, as I said, the brewery website is in the description below. These guys, according to Rate Beer, have produced 13 or so different beers so far as of the 1st of July 2017, and I'm sure they will produce some more in the fairly near future. So they seem to be a sort of quality over quantity brewery actually, which is quite a good thing. But yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one then before we open up. As you can see, it's quite nicely presented, this actually. I do like it. It's a sort of I'm not even sure how to describe the artwork. All I can say is that I like it. I'm certainly not an art buff by any means. Peter over at the Clueless Drinker is somebody who I think is more capable of describing artwork than me. But this one, as I mentioned to you, it comes in at 10% ABV, so it does fit into the Imperial Stout category, this one. I actually thought it was 8% from memory, but I looked at it and it was 10. But it says here, Treacle Toffee Stout, an indulgent imperial milk stout with black molasses. Expect a velvety rich brew with treacle toffee and notes of dark chocolate. So should be a really nice one, this. I think on Rate Beer it had an 82 or something like this, but it's a 3.3 unit beer, this one, according to the UK units, and it's best before the 1st of March 2018, so you could get this one and age it for a little bit. I'm sure actually you could age it longer than that, considering it is 10%, but I'm not sure about can condition. If it was in bottles, I know that definitely you could do that. But very nicely presented beer. So I guess without further ado, let's get this one cracked open and we'll see how we get on. Oh, there we are. A little bit of an explosion there, but not too bad. So yeah, we'll get it out into the glass. Just need to be careful with the head on this, I guess, as it comes out. We'll just pour it very, very lightly and see how we get on. I do wonder if that was where I keep the beers in the house. We have a fridge out in the utility room, and the washing machine is just next to that. And I think the washing machine maybe just went a little bit crazy, and that's maybe made the beer just get a little bit excited. But the head isn't actually too bad on this so far, so we'll just go with it. Of course I could stop the video and edit it, but I prefer not to do that. But the head on this, to be fair, isn't too bad, so we'll just roll with it. You'll see that'll settle down pretty quickly because it's quite a bumpy head. But as you would expect, that's poured a nice dark ebony rosewood colour there. It actually didn't really do very much, there was just a little bit of bubbles popped out the top, but as you can see, it's poured this lovely dark ebony rosewood colour. It's really quite nice looking beer. You can smell the nice brown sugar and chocolate coming off this one. You can see, I think there's a wee bit of a ruby edge to it. If I just hold it up to the light, there's two fingers of a frothy beigey tan head. It's more of a tan head actually. It's quite a nice kind of dark, almost leathery brown character. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there, but it looks really nice. And just the notes you're getting off the top of this one smell really, really nice as well. It smells like a lovely big sweet imperial stout. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh, that smells really nice actually. I have to say that straight off. It smells really good. I mean, for me there's a lot of chocolate. It's got this kind of vanilla-y chocolate note coming out of it first off. But of course you can smell some of these nice brown sugars in there. It's got a nice kind of toffee note. It reminds me of these kind of the Thornton's toffee that my dad likes to eat. I think it's vanilla toffee that he likes, of course. But you can really, to me it has a definite note of milky chocolate and vanilla in this beer. But you can smell a little bit of that roasted brown sugar in there as well. So you've definitely got a sort of toasted caramel thing going on. You can smell that kind of darker treacle molasses sort of thing. Molasses, of course, is what the Americans call treacle. But yeah, you can definitely smell that nice lighter caramel note in there as well. I'm getting a wee bit of a kind of biscuity, grainy thing coming out of this beer too. You can pick up a little bit on a kind of smooth, earthy hop note as well. But really, it's more a sweet beer than anything. When it's a Treacle Toffee Stout, the aroma is exactly what you would expect from the can, although it does have a little bit more kind of vanilla and chocolatey note than I was expecting. But it smells lovely, so as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you actually try it. You get a little bit of a kind of candied red fruit on it when you kind of sugar it up a little bit more like this. You start to get a little bit of the candied red fruit ester coming out of it. But it's a lovely, lovely smelling beer. You can smell a little bit of that earthiness, and there's almost a wee bit of a kind of coffee bean note in there. You can detect a little bit of that kind of smooth coffee bean note coming out of this beer as well. But it does smell really nice. It smells a little bit sweeter when you first open it up and you start to and you just take in the notes that are coming off it, but when you examine it a little bit more closely, it does come across as a little bit darker than you would normally expect from a sweet stout. But I'm sure it will be really good. As I always say, just take a little bit of time and mull over the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But let's have a try of this one then. So this one is the Treacle Toffee Stout from the Steam Machine Brewing Company in Newton Aycliffe, just a little bit to the south of Durham in County Durham in England. Slàinte. Yeah, that's pretty damn nice. What I'll say about this right away, see if I've got a brewery in Durham, a local brewery in Durham that can produce beers like this, I think I'm going to be a happy man. For my 2 semesters that I'm going to be doing in Durham, I think I'm going to be quite happy considering these guys are pretty local. I think it's fair to say on the first taste of this, you will be seeing a few more of their beers reviewed over the next little while. But this is nice. It's, you know, I was going into this beer expecting it like to be a really kind of sweeter, oily imperial stout, but it's got a nice element of dark character to it as well. I'm surprised at how kind of prominent the darker elements of this beer are, but it's really nice. It starts off dark, it comes in and you get the darker elements of the beer first, then it just mellows out, and that's when you start to get more of the sweet character coming out of this beer. But make no mistake, this is good. And I mean, for if a brewery can make first impressions, you know, this is the kind of first impression you want to make. They've done a damn good job with this beer, so I need to try some of their IPAs and stuff. As I always say, when you're trying a new brewery, you want to try something from the lighter side of things, such as an IPA or a Blonde Ale, a Helles, something like that, but then you also want to try an Imperial Stout and stuff. But when this was a Treacle Toffee Stout, you know, this was the end I wanted to start at first. When I saw that, it was only about £3.50 or something as well. For a 10% beer, £3.50 is pretty damn good value. There's no two questions about that. But yeah, that's nice. So yeah, let's examine this a little bit more closely then. So in the middle of the palate, you can feel there's a sort of roasty black malt character just underpinning it. It's not too, it's not really got a bitterness to it. You can feel the bitterness trying to push its way out, but it's almost subdued a little bit by all the sweet things that are going on in the malt base there. To me, there is an element of a kind of bready note in it. It's got a sort of brown bready character, and you can detect a little bit of a sort of slightly spicy, woody character underpinning the beer. It definitely has a little bit of that kind of woody undertone, which is nice, and it suits it really well. On top of it, on top of all of that though, you can feel the woody character, the slightly spicy woody note that's in there. It smooths out, and I do think there's a milky chocolate kind of vanilla flavour, and that just blankets the middle of your tongue. And then, once you move further and further into the aftertaste, you start to feel these nice dark treacle and toffee notes coming out of this beer. It's really just interesting how this one goes together. I think it starts off a little bit dark and bitter. On top of that, you get the woody kind of spicy notes, and then everything else, the sweeter aspects of the flavour of this beer, just smooth out on top of it. And you've seen how long it's been since I took a sip. Now I'm starting to get some of that kind of toasty black malt character, although at the same time, it does have a little bit of a sort of coffee bean sweetness to it. It's maybe not quite as earthy and stuff as coffee, but the roasty black malty character that comes out of this one, it does have a smooth edge to it, which is nice, and it definitely suits the beer. I like how this one comes across. It's really one that makes you think a little bit, and you know, when you've reviewed nearly 1100 beers, this is the kind of thing you want. You want something that's going to keep you on your toes and make you think a little bit. And I mean, the thing is, if they can produce a beer like this, I'm not sure how long Nick would have been homebrewing and stuff for, but if they've only been on the go for about 2 years or something like that, and they can produce a beer like this commercially and consistently, that's a pretty good achievement. You have to give them that. They've done a good job with this. As my mouth is adjusting more and more to this, you do get a little bit of that darker chocolate flavour coming out of this one. You know, on the sides of your palate where the hops are going to come out, in the back corners of the palate, it does have a little bit of a kind of nice earthy character there. I do wonder if they've used Fugal hops in this one. It does. The hoppy character in this one reminds me of Fugal, or maybe Golding, East Kent Golding, something like that. And that's one thing I've always said. I've never really enjoyed the English traditional beers because I don't think the English hops are so good when it comes to lighter style of beer. See, if you use the English hops with that kind of ashy, earthy character, if you use them in a beer like this, they're brilliant, but I just don't like them in the lighter styles of beer. But that's just my opinion, and I do think that if they're using Fugal or Goldings or something in here, it's come out very, very nicely. And it does have that kind of distinctly dark earthiness, but as you come further forward, you can feel the earthiness just smoothing out, and you get a little bit of bitterness around the front curve, around the front corners of your palate, and then around the very front curve, you can detect just a little bit of grassy and kind of citricy note from there. And that's these kind of telltale signs are what are making me think they've used some of these lovely English hops in this beer. There is definitely just a little bit of grassy citric character around the front curve of your tongue, but of course there's a good bit of red fruity note in here as well. So if you just go behind the front curve of your palate, you'll feel that little oily bubble come out, and that's where some of these really nice juicy fruity esters come out in this one. So yeah, with this one, It's got a little bit of a raisiny sharpness to it. There's a raisiny sort of plum character coming out of this one for me. It's got a little bit more of a juicy sharpness to it than some of the other ones, because some of them just have this very light kind of candied red fruit ester thing. This one to me definitely has a little bit more of a kind of plum raisiny sharpness to it, and that suits it as well. But as you progress further and further into the aftertaste of this one, it's the black roasty malt and that kind of smoothness that it has that starts to push its way out. I mean, this is a really, really nice beer. The treacle toffee thing that it has, it's a bit more complex than that for me. It's not simply a treacle toffee stout. It does have a lot more to it. I mean, the brown sugars in this one for me, honestly, they're not the most prominent part of the flavour. I think that there's a whole, this beer is really quite complex. And it's a really good imperial stout, but a treacle toffee stout, I don't think it focuses enough on that aspect of the flavour, but that's taken nothing away from it. I mean, I'm not really bothered about the names of beers and the particular styles, the particular type of imperial stout. I'm more bothered about whether it's a good beer, and it is a good beer. It really is a very, very nice beer, and like I said, when these guys can produce a beer like this after 2 years consistently, they're doing a pretty damn good job. And I mean, you do get a nice dark treacle character out of it, but to me the roasted black malts in this, I would have to admit, when I'm thinking, if I think treacle and toffee, I expect the stout to be a little bit sweeter, but it's got a good little bit of the roasted black malt as well, and you can say that does balance it out. But my main thing is, the main question to ask about this beer, is it a good beer? And the answer is hell yes, it's a really good beer. It is a really nice one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. That's me maybe being a little bit picky when it comes to the name of the beer, but they've certainly done a really, really good job of this, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. Just be aware with it, it does have that nice brown sugar element to it, but it's got a nice little bit of that roasted, almost kind of coffee flavour to it as well. So if you like that, I'm sure you will enjoy this. If you like a good balance, it is actually a very well balanced beer. If you enjoy the balance between kind of toasted brown sugars and dark brown sugars, and also a little bit of that kind of earthy hop and roasted black malt, this one is going to suit you down to the ground, and I like how they've balanced this one. But by the name, I would have expected it to just lean a little bit more to the sweeter side of things, but that's an absolute nitpick. It's a good beer, and that should be the kind of summary of this review, to be honest. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say definitely a full-bodied beer. It's got a really soft carbonation, it's a big oily mouthfeel, there's a little bit of creaminess to it, but mainly it's a big oily mouthfeel in this one. The hoppy character to this is really quite smooth, but it does have a little bit of bitterness in the back corners of the palate and the front corners of the palate. It's an earthy bitterness you're getting out of this, some juicy red fruits, a little bit of sharpness, like I said, some raisins and plums coming out of the beer. And the malt base has a good balance between the sweeter kind of brown sugar notes and also some of that kind of toasted black malt character in there. But overall, like I said, this is a really good beer, and when I'm going to be based in Durham for 2 semesters, I'm pleased that I've got a brewery who can produce things like this in my local area. So you will definitely see a few more beers reviewed from Steam Machine Brewing Company. This has been a really interesting beer to try for you guys. So if you like a good balance between brown sugars and some nice roasted black malt, this one is going to suit you down to the ground. So it's a really, really good beer. A big thumbs up to the Steam Machine Brewing Company on this, and I will review some more of their beers. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed my take on this one. Until the next time, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below, and let me know what your favourite beers are from Steam Machine Brewing Company. Of course, I will return to them in the fairly near future, but thank you once again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. This one's the Treacle Toffee Stout from Steam Machine Brewing Company in Newton Aycliffe, County Durham, in the northeast of England. Slanted just now, and I will catch you very soon. This is a beast of a beer, and I recommend that you have a look at it. Cheers.